So, how long have you lived here at 28 Barbary Lane?
I moved here in 1966.
It was kind of a funny way into the show. I got a call. The show had already been in development, and they were having a hard time nailing down Shauna's voice, who's played by Ellen Page on the show. So I got this call that was like, will you come in and consult on this young female queer voice? And I was like, right, it's the center of my wheelhouse. Got it. So that was sort of how I got into it, and I had never heard of it. And I just very quickly devoured all the books. And the first couple books came out in the late 70s. They still feel really radical. Like Armistead, who wrote the books, was portraying queer characters in this way that wasn't salacious and wasn't using their sexuality as the like exciting, titillating reveal. It was just like, no, these are a bunch of people living their lives. And it struck me that we really still need that, which is pretty amazing all these decades later. So it was really exciting to get to like dive into it fresh. It's a group of people who have known and loved each other for a really long time. And they were so generous and open in terms of allowing me to come into that family and welcoming me in. And in that way, it felt like my job was to listen. My job was to sit and let them lead and tell me about the history and tell me about the characters and kind of guide me along, which they did in a really remarkable way. If we've done a good job, you don't need to know anything, right? I mean, that was our goal in how do we very quickly usher in someone to the show so that they can get caught up on like, you know, this 25 years of what the show was before and what it is now and where these characters are coming from. My hope is that you should just be able to jump in. And the thing to know about the show and the reason that I love it is I think it's a really warm place. I think the show, we always said it's like 2 feet off the ground, you know? It's like a little magical. My hope is that you get to like snuggle on a couch with a blanket and it's like really, it's an escape, right? Barbary Lane is a safe space and hopefully the show is a safe space also.
You know it would be all right to have some feelings about your strange mom showing up out of nowhere.
Seth, she thinks I am her biological mother.
I hired 6 brilliant queer writers, and so a lot of the younger generation specifically came out of conversations that we had in the writers' room and talking about what stories do we want to see that we haven't seen, what would those stories look like, who would we, you know, want to see on screen. So specifically with like Jake and Margot, I think those characters come to mind immediately, and of course with Shauna is more derived from the books, but it was like generationally, how do we represent what feels to us like an authentic queer experience and allow that to kind of further the conversation of the show. Yeah. I feel really close to Jake as a character. You know, it makes me think of my own coming out, and it makes me think of, I think, anyone who's gone through that, and you stumble and you fall, and hopefully you have a group of loving, caring people around you to pick you up. And I think in that way I feel, at the very least, I feel very maternal toward Jake and like just want to hold him and make sure he's safe in the world. Netflix specifically is so supportive of the creative, and I don't have a track record. I think it would have been totally fair for me to be, you know, babysat or for the reins to be pulled in, and instead it just felt like I had this amazing support system to like push me forward and help make sure that we were telling these stories in the best way possible. It's very cool. So it's designed as a limited series, and it's even story-wise, we really came at it that way because I wanted to make sure that because it's designed as a limited, it feels satisfying as a singular season. Obviously, we're living in a world where people make limited series all the time and then surprise they come back. And of course, like, these characters are so rich and I'm so in love with them that I would always be happy to spend more time with them, but it is intended to just be these 10 episodes for now.